their short spears held at the shoulder. When they locked in combat, they would thrust at Philip's men from behind their wall of shields. The Macedonians under Caenis had a singular advantage: a sarissa, a pike up to 20 feet long, held underarm and tipped with a foot-long blade. Row upon row, bristling with pikes, this was the Macedonian phalanx.
Each man of the first rank was the points of 5 pikes extending beyond him. Those further back than the 5th rank hold theirs slanting over the shoulders of those in front, so as to protect the whole formation, keeping off by this serried mass of pikes all missiles.
The first and last ranks wore heavy breastplates. The troops within the phalanx, needing only a light shield, were relieved of the burden of armor, and Philip was relieved of its cost. Thus could he field such a large army. So long as its lines remained unbroken, this forest of pikes could not be penetrated. It was the job of the phalanx to punch a hole in the enemy line. Then the companions, the elite Macedonian cavalry, would drive their wedge through it. Philip now deployed his infantry, 30,000 men. 2,000 horsemen under his teenage son Alexander waited for their opening.
Horses and men, gleaming not with gold, not with multicolored clothes, but with iron and bronze.
"60,000 men advanced across the plain.
The blood really flowed, for the two lines were so closely interlocked that they were striking each other's weapons with their own and driving their blades into their opponents' faces. It was now impossible for the timid and the cowardly to remain inactive. Foot against foot, they were virtually engaging in single combat, standing in the same spot until they could make further room for themselves by winning the fight. Only by bringing down his opponent could each man advance.
Thrusting at the Greeks with their sarissae, Caenis and his comrades pushed and heaved in a great shoving match. At the height of the battle, Philip signaled his right flank to steadily fall back.
The Greek general cried out, "We've got to keep attacking until we push the enemy back to Macedonia." Philip remarked, "The Greeks don't know how to win."
On the Macedonians' right, the men kept pulling back. Sensing victory, the Greeks surged forward. What looked like retreat was a well-rehearsed trap. the Greeks charged, their lines split. The Macedonian cavalry, led by Prince Alexander, struck at the gap. The whole Greek line buckled and broke. Vulnerable without their phalanx, they were run down by Philip's horsemen. The Greek army was destroyed. A lion would mark the graves of the Theban sacred band, an elite unit wiped out by Macedonians in a few hours. Celebrating their victory, Caenis and his men wallowed in an orgy of drinking.
They paraded through the midst of the captives, jeering all the time at the misfortune of the luckless men.
That night on the field, Caenis lay exhausted. Yet this battle for Greece was but the prelude to a harder campaign against a greater foe. Not long after the Battle of Chaeronea, King Philip was murdered. At age 20, his son Alexander took up his father's sword and his dream, the conquest of their ancient enemy, Persia. With the new king came new prospects for Caenis. Marrying the daughter of a general, he won command of his own regiment. Now he would help prepare the campaign against Persia. It was a land that could be as hostile as its army. Ingenious at adaptation, the Macedonians made boats from leather tents to ford rivers. They marched at night to avoid the desert sun. In the first year of the campaign, the newlywed Caenis was permitted to return home to see his wife. Gradually, the war took him ever farther from Macedonia. No obstacle halted Alexander's army. City after city fell. Persians deserted and swelled the ranks of the victorious Macedonians. Then this unstoppable force came to an object that would